The night was quiet at the Space Observatory. Doctor sat alone in the control room, drinking cold coffee and watching her screens. She had worked at this job for 7 years. Most nights were boring. She tracked satellites, recorded asteroid paths, and wrote reports that nobody read. But tonight was different. At exactly 2:47 a.m., her computer made a sound she had never heard before, a warning alarm. She put down her coffee and leaned forward. On her screen, she saw something impossible. Hundreds of objects were moving near Jupiter. They were slowing down. They were changing direction. Rocks do not slow down in space. Rocks do not change direction. His hands started to shake. She ran every test she knew. She checked her equipment 3 times. The results were always the same. These objects were not natural. They were ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, and they were coming toward Earth. She picked up her phone and called the Korean Space Agency. Then she called the military. Then she called everyone she could think of. Within 6 hours, every government on Earth knew the truth. Humanity was not alone, and whatever was coming did not look friendly. The news spread fast. Television stations interrupted their programs. People gathered in the streets looking up at the sky. Some prayed, some cried, some refused to believe it, but the evidence was clear. An alien fleet was approaching Earth, and it would arrive in less than 1 week. World leaders held emergency meetings. Old enemies agreed to work together. The United Nations formed something called the United Defense Force, putting all the world's armies under one command. General Sung, a Korean military leader known for his calm thinking, was chosen to lead it. But everyone knew the truth. Humanity had nuclear weapons and fighter jets. These aliens had crossed the stars. It was like bringing a knife to fight a tank. In Seoul, Sergeant received his orders on a rainy Tuesday morning. He was a soldier of 15 years. He had seen combat before. He had lost friends before, but nothing had prepared him for this. "We are to hold the city," his commander told him. "Whatever comes down from those ships, we fight it." Nodded, he did not ask what chance they had. He already knew the answer. He gathered his squad that afternoon. There were 12 of them, all young men and women who had joined the army expecting to serve their country in normal ways. Now they were preparing to fight aliens. Private Wu was the youngest. He was only 22 years old, with a round face and nervous eyes. His hands shook when he held his rifle. "Sergeant," Wu said quietly, "do you think we can win?" Looked at the young soldier. He wanted to lie. He wanted to say something brave and hopeful, but had never been good at lying. "I do not know," he said honestly, "but we will fight anyway. That is what soldiers do." Wu nodded slowly. He seemed to find some comfort in those words. The squad spent the next 5 days preparing. They built walls of sandbags. They dug trenches. They set up machine guns and anti-tank weapons. All around Seoul, other units did the same. The city became a fortress. But everyone kept looking up at the sky. On the 6th day, the aliens made contact. Every screen on Earth lit up at the same time. Televisions, phones, computers, even digital billboards. They all showed the same image, a creature that was not human. It was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. Its head was shaped like a triangle. It had 4 arms and stood on 2 legs that bent backward like a bird. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "People of Earth," it said, "we are the Vel. We have traveled across the stars to claim your world. You have one chance to survive. Surrender now. Give us your planet, become our servants. If you refuse, we will take it by force. You have 12 hours to decide." The screen went black. For a moment the world was silent. Then chaos erupted. Some people said humanity should surrender. They said fighting was pointless. They said it was better to live as slaves than die as free people. Others said humanity should never give up. They said death was better than chains. The United Nations voted. It was not a close vote. 193 countries said the same thing. No. General Sung sent humanity's response to the alien fleet. It was short. We will not surrender. Come and take it if you can. The Vel did not reply. High above Earth in a ship the size of a mountain, Commander Rowe watched the blue planet through a massive window. He was old for a Vel, with scars on his gray skin and medals on his chest. He had conquered 12 worlds in his lifetime. Earth would be the 13th. He felt no worry. The Vel had the strongest army in the galaxy. Their soldiers were tall and powerful. Their weapons could cut through any armor. They had never lost a war. These humans were primitive. They had only recently learned to leave their own planet. They would fall quickly. Overseer, his chief science officer, stood beside him. Commander said, "The humans have refused to surrender." Rowe made a sound that might have been a laugh. Of course they did. Primitive species always fight at first. They do not understand what they face. They will learn. Shall I prepare the landing force? Yes, send the first wave to all major continents. I want this planet secured within 3 days. Bowed and left to give the orders. Rowe continued to watch Earth. Such a beautiful planet. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds. It would make a fine addition to the Vel Empire. The humans would make useful workers once they learned their place. He turned away from the window and walked to his command chair. Around him, hundreds of Vel officers worked at their stations, preparing for the invasion. 3,000 ships hung in orbit. 100,000 soldiers waited in their drop pods. The most powerful army in the galaxy was ready to strike. On Earth, Sergeant stood on a rooftop in Seoul, watching the night sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the clouds, death was waiting. Beside him, Private Wu was praying quietly. "Whatever happens tomorrow," said, "fight well, die well, that is all we can do." Wu opened his eyes and looked at his sergeant. "Yes, sir." The first Vel began their descent at dawn. They fell from the sky like burning stars. They were black and shaped like teardrops, leaving trails of fire as they crashed through the atmosphere. People all over the world watched them come. Some ran, some hid, some stood frozen, unable to move. Sergeant watched through his binoculars as 3 landed in the fields outside, about 50 kilometers from his position. He could see the smoke rising from where they touched down. His radio crackled with reports from other units. Contact in Beijing. Contact in London. Contact in New York. The invasion had begun. Turned to his squad. Their faces were pale, but their hands were steady on their weapons. Private Wu had stopped shaking. Fear had been replaced by something else. Acceptance, maybe, or just numbness. "Hold your positions," ordered. "Wait for my command." They waited. Korean soldiers surrounded the landing zone. Tanks pointed their guns at the alien ships. Helicopters circled overhead. Everyone held their breath. The first opened. A ramp extended from the side of the ship, touching the muddy ground. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the Vel soldiers appeared. They were exactly as the broadcasts had shown. Tall, gray, thin. They wore black armor that covered their entire bodies. They carried weapons that glowed with strange blue light. Each one stood over 2 meters tall, towering over the human soldiers. The first Vel warrior stepped onto the ramp. He moved with confidence, his 4 arms holding his weapon ready. He looked around at the human soldiers surrounding him, and he showed no fear. Then he stepped off the ramp onto Earth's soil. And he fell. It happened so fast that nobody understood it at first. The tall, powerful alien warrior took 1 step onto solid ground, and his legs simply collapsed beneath him. He fell face first into the mud. His weapon flew from his hands. The human soldiers stared. The other Vel soldiers stared. A second warrior rushed down the ramp to help his fallen comrade. He took 3 steps onto the ground before his legs buckled too. He crashed down beside the first one, screaming in a high-pitched voice that hurt human ears. More aliens came down the ramp. More aliens fell. One Vel made it 5 steps before his spine snapped with a sound like breaking wood. Another collapsed and could not get up, his arms pressing against the ground but unable to lift his body. A third fell forward and did not move at all. His neck had broken on impact. Inside the remaining aliens stared at their fallen soldiers in horror. They tried to retreat back up the ramp, but even that was difficult. Their legs shook. Their bodies trembled. One fell backward and tumbled down the ramp, breaking both arms. The human soldiers did not fire a single shot. They simply watched as the mighty alien invasion force destroyed itself. Private Wu, watching a video feed from on a tablet, could not believe his eyes. He looked at Sergeant with his mouth open. What is happening to them? Shook his head slowly. He had no answer. But far away, in an underground bunker, Doctor had already figured it out. She had been watching the same feeds, and her scientist's mind had immediately started working on the problem. She pulled up data on the alien ships, their design, their size. She made calculations about the Vel bodies, their height, their thin limbs. The answer was simple, so simple that she laughed out loud when she realized it. "Gravity," she whispered. "It is the gravity." She grabbed her phone and called General Sung directly. "General, I know what is happening. The aliens come from a planet with much weaker gravity than Earth, maybe 3 or 4 times weaker. Their bodies evolved there. They cannot handle our gravity." There was silence on the line for a moment. "You are telling me," General Sung said slowly, "that our planet is killing them?" "Yes, sir. Earth's gravity is crushing them. Their bones are too weak. Their muscles are too thin. Every step they take, they are fighting a force they never experienced before, and they are losing." General Sung was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, stronger. "Send this information to all units, now." The news spread through the military in minutes. All around the world, human soldiers watched as alien warriors crumbled under the weight of Earth itself. The feared invasion force, the conquerors of a dozen worlds, could not even walk. In orbit, Commander Rowe received the reports with growing horror. His officers showed him video after video. His elite soldiers, the finest warriors in the Vel Empire, crawling in the dirt like broken animals, their bones shattering, their organs failing, crushed by an invisible enemy they could not fight. "How is this possible?" Rowe demanded. "We scanned this planet, we studied these humans." Overseer checked his data with shaking hands. "Commander, we measured the planet's mass. We calculated its gravity, but we compared it to our own world. We thought it was only slightly stronger. We did not think. We never imagined." "Never imagined what?" "That the difference would be so deadly. Earth's gravity is more than double ours. For us, it is like wearing weights on every part of our body. Our soldiers cannot function. They can barely survive." Rowe slammed his 4 fists against his control panel. "Then send machines. Send our walking vehicles. Something that does not need weak Vel bones." "I have already ordered it, Commander, but our machines are also designed for our gravity. The stress on their systems is enormous. They move slowly. Their power cells drain quickly. They are not effective." Rowe stared at the blue planet below him. Such a beautiful world. Now it looked different to him. It looked like a trap, a prison of invisible force that crushed everything that touched it. And the humans lived there. They walked around like it was nothing. They ran, they jumped, they carried heavy things and did not break. What kind of monsters had evolved on such a world? Back on the surface, human forces began to advance. The fear that had gripped them was gone. They moved toward the alien landing zones with new purpose. Sergeant led his squad toward a down on the outskirts of Seoul. They moved carefully, weapons ready. But as they got closer, they saw that there was no need for caution. The Vel soldiers were all on the ground. Some were dead, crushed by their own weight. Others were alive but helpless, unable to stand, barely able to move. They made weak sounds of pain and fear. Stepped over a fallen alien and entered the. Inside, he found more Vel hiding in their seats. These seats seemed to help them somehow, supporting their bodies, reducing the strain. But even here, they looked sick and weak. One alien, wearing the marks of an officer, raised a weapon toward with trembling arms. But he could not hold it up. The weight was too much. The weapon fell to the floor. Kicked it away gently. He looked at the alien officer for a long moment. "You came to conquer us," said. "You thought we were weak, but you did not understand what living here made us." The alien officer coughed. A thin gray liquid dripped from his mouth. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "How do you survive this world?" Thought about the question. He thought about every step he had ever taken, every weight he had ever lifted, every day he had lived on Earth without thinking about it. "We were born in it," he said simply. "This is normal for us." The alien's large black eyes went wide with something that looked like terror. In that moment, he finally understood what his people had done. They had not invaded a primitive world. They had invaded and its inhabitants were monsters beyond imagination. The news spread across Earth in hours. What had seemed like the end of humanity became something else entirely. The alien invasion, the most terrifying event in human history, had turned into something almost impossible to believe. The aliens were dying, not from human weapons, not from disease, from Earth itself. Television stations played the videos again and again. Tall alien warriors falling like puppets with cut strings. Elite soldiers crying in pain as their own bodies betrayed them. The mightiest military force in the galaxy, crushed by gravity. People reacted in different ways. Some laughed with relief, some cried, some could not believe it was real, but slowly the truth sank in. Earth was not the weak, primitive world the aliens had expected. To them, it was a death trap. And humans were the monsters who lived there. In the underground bunker, Doctor continued her research. She studied captured alien equipment and the bodies of dead Vel soldiers. What she found amazed her. "Their bones are hollow," she told General Sung during a video call. "Like bird bones. Their muscles are thin and long, designed for low gravity. Their hearts are weak by our standards. On their home planet, they were probably very strong and fast. Here, they can barely survive." "Can they adapt?" General Sung asked. "Maybe over many generations, but not in days or weeks. The gravity difference is too large. Even sitting in a chair for a few hours is dangerous for them. Their blood pools in their legs. Their hearts struggle to pump. They need special support equipment just to stay alive." General Sung nodded slowly. "So their ground forces are useless. What about their fleet?" "The ships are fine. In space, there is no gravity. But the moment they try to land soldiers on Earth, those soldiers become helpless." This was good news, but General Sung knew it was not complete victory. The Vel still had thousands of ships in orbit. They could not walk on Earth, but they could still destroy it from above. As if reading his thoughts, the first orbital strike hit Paris 3 hours later. A bright light fell from the sky. The explosion destroyed everything within 5 kilometers. Hundreds of thousands of people died in seconds. The beautiful old city burned. More strikes followed. Beijing, Moscow, New York. Cities all over the world were hit. The Vel could not conquer Earth, so they decided to burn it instead. In Seoul, Sergeant felt the ground shake as a strike hit somewhere to the north. The sky lit up with a terrible orange glow. Sirens screamed. People ran through the streets in panic. Everyone underground shouted to his squad, "Move." They ran for the nearest subway station. Thousands of civilians were already there, packed together in the tunnels, crying and praying. Pushed through the crowd, making sure his soldiers stayed together. Private Wu grabbed his arm. "Sergeant, what do we do now? We cannot fight ships in space. Did not answer. He did not have an answer. The bombardment continued for 2 days. Cities burned. Millions died. The sky was filled with smoke and ash. It seemed like the Vel had decided that if they could not have Earth, no one would. But humanity did not give up. In a military base in the mountains of Korea, a young engineer named was working on something important. She had been studying captured Vel technology since the first ships crashed. She did not understand all of it, but she understood enough. Their weapons use gravitational targeting, she explained to her superiors. They measure the gravity of their target and adjust their weapons accordingly. It is very precise. That is why their strikes are so accurate. Can we block it? A general asked. No, but maybe we can fool it. Pulled up her calculations on a screen. If we broadcast a false gravitational signal, their targeting systems will become confused. Their weapons will miss. The military leaders looked at each other. It was a desperate idea, but they were desperate people. They called Doctor. Together, the two women worked on the plan. They would use captured Vel communication equipment to send a signal to the alien fleet. The signal would contain false data about Earth's gravity. For a few seconds, the Vel systems would believe Earth had suddenly shifted position. How long will it work? General Sung asked. Maybe 10 seconds, admitted. Maybe 15. Then their systems will correct themselves. 15 seconds, General Sung repeated. That is not very long. No, sir, but it might be enough. Weiland prepared their plan and his squad were given a new mission. There were still Vel soldiers alive on Earth, trapped in their crashed ships. Most were helpless, but some had managed to create protected environments inside their vessels. They needed to be captured or killed. The squad approached a large Vel that had crashed in a park in southern Seoul. The ship was partially buried in the ground, with smoke rising from cracks in its hull. They could see movement through the windows. Stay alert, ordered. They may be weak, but they still have weapons. They entered the ship through a hole in the side. Inside, the air was different, thinner, colder. The Vel had changed the atmosphere to make themselves more comfortable. Found them in the main cabin. A group of 7 aliens strapped into special chairs that supported their bodies. Medical equipment surrounded them, pumping fluids into their veins and supporting their organs. Even with all this help, they looked sick and tired. One of them saw the human soldiers and made a weak sound of alarm. Others reached for weapons but could not lift them. "Do not move," said, raising his rifle. "You are our prisoners now." A Vel officer spoke through a translation device on his chest. You will kill us." Looked at the pathetic creatures before him. They had come to conquer his world. They had killed millions of his people with their orbital strikes. He had every reason to hate them. But they were so helpless, so broken. It was hard to hate something that could not even stand up. "No," said finally. "We will not kill you. You will live. You will answer our questions, and you will tell your people what you found here." The alien officer stared at him. "Why, we are your enemies." "Because we are not like you," lowered his weapon slightly. "We do not destroy those who cannot fight back. That is what makes us different." Private Wu looked at his sergeant with surprise. He had expected revenge. He had expected anger. Instead, he saw something else. Something that looked almost like pity. The alien officer was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer. "We made a terrible mistake coming here," he said. "We thought you were weak because you had never left your planet. We did not understand. You are not weak. You are impossibly strong. Your world made you strong, stronger than anything we have ever seen." Nodded slowly. "Remember that. Tell your commanders, tell your empire, Earth is not a prize to be taken. It is a warning, stay away." They took the prisoners back to base. The alien officer kept his promise. Through captured communication equipment, he sent a message to Commander Rowe describing everything he had seen. He told him about the humans who walked easily in crushing gravity. He told him about their strange mercy. He told him that the invasion was a failure. But Commander Rowe did not listen. He had never lost a war. He would not lose this one. In orbit, the Vel fleet prepared for one final, massive bombardment. If they could not have Earth, they would destroy it completely. The countdown began. The sky above Seoul was dark with smoke. 3 orbital strikes had already hit the city. The first destroyed the business district. The second wiped out the old palace. The third landed near the river, turning the water to steam. Sergeant led his squad through the ruins, searching for survivors. The streets were covered with broken glass and fallen concrete. Fires burned everywhere. The air was thick with ash and the smell of death. "Sergeant," Private Wu shouted, "over here." Ran toward the sound. Wu had found a collapsed building. Under the broken walls they could hear voices, children crying, adults calling for help. "Get them out," ordered. "Everyone help." The squad worked together, pulling away pieces of concrete and twisted metal. It was hard, dangerous work. The building could collapse further at any moment, but they did not stop. After 20 minutes they reached the survivors. A family of 5 was hiding in a basement. A father, a mother, and 3 young children. They were covered in dust but alive. "Come with us," said, helping the father stand. "We will take you somewhere safe." They were carrying the youngest child toward the evacuation point when the sky lit up again. Another strike was coming. Saw the light falling toward them and knew they could not outrun it. "Get down," he screamed. Everyone threw themselves to the ground. Everyone except Private Wu. The young soldier saw the children and made a decision in less than a second. He threw his body over them, covering them with his own. The explosion hit 200 meters away. The force knocked unconscious. When he woke up, his ears were ringing and his vision was blurry. He pushed himself up slowly, his body aching. Around him, his squad members were getting to their feet, injured but alive. Then he saw Wu. The young private was lying on his back, still covering the children. They were crying but unhurt. Wu had protected them perfectly, but a large piece of metal had hit him during the blast. It had gone through his chest. Ran to him and fell to his knees. Wu, stay with me." Wu opened his eyes. They were calm, almost peaceful. Did I save them, Sergeant?" Looked at the 3 children, now being held by their crying parents. They were alive because of this young man. "Yes," said his voice breaking. "You saved them. You did good, soldier." Wu smiled. It was a small, tired smile. "Good, that is good." He closed his eyes and did not open them again. Stayed there for a long moment, holding the body of the young soldier who had given everything. Around him, his squad stood in silence, their heads bowed. There was no time to mourn. More strikes were coming. Forced himself to stand. He looked at his soldiers, saw the grief and anger in their eyes, and knew he had to lead them. "We will honor him later," said quietly. "Right now we have work to do." They continued the evacuation. They saved more lives, but carried the weight of Wu's death in his chest like a stone. He would carry it for the rest of his life. Miles away in the underground bunker and Doctor were racing against time. The equipment was ready. The false signal was prepared, but they only had one chance. "The Vel are charging their main weapons," a technician reported. "They are preparing for a total bombardment. Every city on Earth will be hit at the same time." "How long?" General Sung asked. 30 minutes, maybe less." Sung turned to, "Is your plan ready?" Nodded, but her face was worried. "Ready, but risky. If this fails, we have no backup plan. If we do nothing, everyone dies anyway. Do it." Looked at, the young engineer's hands were shaking, but her eyes were determined. They had checked everything 100 times. There was nothing more to check. "Sending the signal now," said, pressing a button. The false gravitational data shot up into space. riding captured Vel communication frequencies. It reached the alien fleet in seconds. For one brief moment, every Vel targeting system on every ship received wrong information about Earth's position. The effect was immediate. On the Vel ships, weapons that had been aimed at cities suddenly shifted. Targeting computers tried to correct for a gravitational shift that did not exist. Guidance systems went crazy. Weapons that required perfect precision became useless. Now, General Sung shouted, "Fire everything!" Humanity launched its counterattack. Every nuclear missile that could reach orbit was fired. Every rocket, every weapon, everything that could fly was sent upward. It was a desperate move. Most of Earth's missiles were designed to hit targets on the ground, not in space. But the Vel fleet was in chaos, and for 11 precious seconds they could not defend themselves. 47 Vel ships were destroyed. The explosions lit up the night sky like a new sun. People all over the world looked up and saw alien warships burning. On the bridge of the mothership, Commander Rowe was thrown from his command chair as the ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. His officers shouted reports of damage and death. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. Engines 2 and 3 are offline. We have lost contact with 47 ships. Rowe pulled himself back to his feet, but something was wrong with him. He felt heavy, too heavy. He looked down and saw that his legs were bending the wrong way. The gravity plates on his ship had been damaged. The artificial gravity was failing. And when it failed, parts of the ship were experiencing something close to Earth's gravity. Rowe fell to his knees. The weight was crushing him. He felt his bones cracking. His hearts, both of them, strained to pump blood through his body. "Commander," Overseer rushed toward him, but he was moving slowly too. The gravity was affecting everyone. "Get us out of here," Rowe gasped. "Full retreat, leave this cursed system." It was the first time in his long career that Rowe had ordered a retreat. The word tasted like poison in his mouth, but he had no choice. The mission was a failure. The planet was unconquerable. The humans were too strong. The surviving Vel ships turned away from Earth. They limped toward the outer solar system, their engines damaged, their crews injured. Behind them, they left the burning remains of their fallen ships and the bodies of thousands of soldiers. On Earth, people watched them go. At first there was disbelief, then relief, then celebration. In the bunker, and held each other and cried. They had done it. Their desperate plan had worked. General Sung stood quietly, watching the screens, allowing himself a small moment of satisfaction. In Seoul, Sergeant sat in the ruins of a building alone. He did not celebrate. He was thinking about Wu, about all the soldiers and civilians who had died, about the cost of victory. His radio crackled. "Sergeant, the enemy fleet is retreating. The battle is over. Return to base." Did not answer immediately. He looked up at the sky where he could still see distant fires burning in space. The Vel were running away. Earth had won. But it did not feel like victory. It felt like survival. There was a difference. Stood up slowly, his body aching. He picked up his rifle and started walking back toward what was left of Seoul. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning. 3 weeks had passed since the last Vel ship disappeared into deep space. Earth was slowly coming back to life. The damage was terrible. 14 major cities had been destroyed or badly damaged. Millions of people were dead. Millions more were homeless, living in camps and temporary shelters. The world's governments were working together like never before, sharing food, medicine, and resources. But humanity had survived. Against all odds, against an enemy with far superior technology, they had survived. And that meant everything. Sargent stood at a memorial site on the outskirts of Seoul. It was a simple place, just a wall of stone with names carved into it. Thousands of names. Soldiers and civilians who had died in the invasion. He found the name he was looking for, Private Wu. The letters were small and plain, no different from the others, but too, they carried the weight of the world. He heard footsteps behind him, walked up and stood beside him. She looked tired. Everyone looked tired these days, but there was something else in her eyes too, something like hope. "I thought I would find you here," she said quietly. Did not turn around. He was so young, he had his whole life ahead of him. He saved those children. They are alive because of him. "I know," touched the carved name gently. "I know he did the right thing, but I still wish he was here." They stood in silence for a moment. The wind blew cold across the memorial site, carrying the smell of smoke that still lingered over the city. "I came to tell you something," said finally. "We have been monitoring Vel communications, intercepted transmissions." "What are they saying?" "They are afraid. Word is spreading across their empire about what happened here. They are calling Eartha. They are saying humans are monsters made of iron and stone." Almost smiled. "They think we are indestructible." Turned to look at her. "We are not indestructible. Look around you." "I know, but they do not. To them we are creatures who walk easily in crushing gravity. We are soldiers who fight without fear. We are people who show mercy even to enemies who cannot fight back." Paused. That last part confused them the most, I think. They expected us to kill their prisoners. When we did not, they could not understand why. Thought about the Vel officer he had captured. The alien had looked so helpless, so broken. It had been easy to show mercy to something that could not hurt him. But was that really strength? "Maybe mercy is the hardest thing of all," he said quietly. Nodded. "Maybe it is." They walked together through the ruined city. Workers were clearing the streets. Builders were starting to rebuild. Children played in small parks, their laughter a strange sound in a world of ruins. Life was continuing as it always did. 1 month later, the United Nations held a special assembly. The meeting was broadcast to every corner of Earth and beyond. Doctor had been chosen to speak on behalf of humanity. She stood at the podium, looking small and tired but strong. Behind her, the flags of every nation on Earth hung in a row. In front of her, representatives from every country waited to hear her words. "People of Earth," she began. "1 month ago we faced extinction. An alien empire came to our world expecting easy conquest. They had defeated dozens of planets before us. They thought we would be no different." She paused, looking at the faces before her. "They were wrong." Murmurs rippled through the assembly, continued. "We did not defeat the Vel with superior weapons. We did not defeat them with brilliant strategy. We defeated them with something we never thought about, something we took for granted every day of our lives. We defeated them with our own planet." She smiled slightly. "Earth is a heavy world. Our gravity is strong. Every step we take, every breath we draw, we fight against a force that would crush most other species in the galaxy. We never realized this because we had nothing to compare it to. To us, it was just normal. But now we know the truth. We are children of a heavy world. Our bones are dense. Our muscles are strong. Our hearts beat with power that other species cannot imagine. We are not weak. We are the opposite of weak. We are forged by our planet into something remarkable." His voice grew stronger. "I have a message for any other species that might be listening, any empire that might be thinking about coming to Earth. Listen carefully." She leaned forward. "We did not seek this war. We did not want to fight. We were happy living on our world, learning, growing, dreaming of peaceful exploration. But when we were attacked, we fought back. When our cities were destroyed, we did not surrender. When our people died, we kept fighting. So understand this, we are children of a heavy world. Our planet is not a prize to be taken. It is a fortress. And we, its inhabitants, are its guardians. You sent your strongest against us, and our world broke them. If you come again, you will find us ready. And we will not show the same mercy twice." The assembly was silent. Then slowly applause began. It grew louder and louder until it filled the entire hall. People stood, they cheered, they cried. Outside, in cities and towns and villages all over Earth, people watched the broadcast and felt something new. Pride. Not the pride of victory, but the pride of survival. The pride of learning what they truly were. 1 year later, stood in an observation deck high above Earth. He was no longer a sergeant. The new United Earth Space Force had promoted him to captain. He had tried to refuse, but General Sung had insisted. Through the window, he could see the object of his new assignment. Humanity's first interstellar warship. It was not finished yet, but the frame was already massive. Hundreds of workers moved around it like tiny insects, welding, building, creating. Appeared beside him. She was now the chief engineer of the project. "What do you think?" she asked. Looked at the ship for a long moment. "I think the galaxy is about to learn something important." "What is that?" "That Earth is not a place to be conquered. It is a place that creates conquerors." He turned to face her. "And we are done hiding." Nodded slowly. "The Vel are telling everyone to stay away from us. They are afraid." Good, they should be afraid, but fear is not enough. One day, some other empire will get brave. They will think they can succeed where the Vel failed. They will come to test us. And when they do, looked back at the ship. When they do, we will not be waiting on the ground. We will meet them in the stars, and we will show them what children of gravity can do when they are set free from it. The ship continued to grow. More workers arrived every day. Scientists and engineers from every nation on Earth worked side by side. Old conflicts were forgotten. Old hatreds set aside. Humanity was united in a way it had never been before. Because they finally understood what they were. The galaxy had ignored the small blue planet for millions of years. They had dismissed its inhabitants as primitive, as weak, as unimportant. They had never looked closely enough to see the truth. Humans were not weak. They were warriors forged by gravity itself. Every generation had been tested by the weight of their world, and every generation had grown stronger. Their bones were steel. Their will was iron, and now they knew it. The last Vel ship was long gone, but its message continued to spread across the stars. Warnings about thee and its impossible inhabitants. Tales of soldiers who could not be crushed and would not surrender. Stories of a small planet that had defeated an empire. Earth was no longer unknown, and the galaxy would never ignore it again. Far away in distant star systems, other species heard the stories and wondered. Some were curious, some were afraid, and some in the darkest corners of space saw not a warning but a challenge. The next war was already coming, but this time humanity would be ready. In his quarters aboard the construction station, Captain looked at a photograph of his old squad. 12 faces looked back at him. Some were still alive, some were not. Wu smiled from the corner of the picture, forever young, forever brave. "We will not waste what you gave us," said quietly. "I promise." He put the photograph away and walked toward the command center. There was work to do, a future to build, a galaxy to face. The children of the heavy world were finally leaving home. And nothing would ever be the same.